Hello and welcome once again to another Chantel Ray podcast. I'm Jimmy Ray, and with me are two of the big guys here in the organization because they sell a lot, and they help a lot of buyers, and they know what they're doing. It's John Mclaren and Josh Chilton.
Hey guys.
Guys, and today we're talking about foreclosures.
Yes.
Foreclosures, yep.
All right,
foreclosures, distress sales, how to buy a sort of unconventional home. And a lot of people out there are looking for that deal in the marketplace. And they think a lot of times that deal is going to come in the foreclosure market. And so we're helping people look for those all the time.
Now, what's the difference for the buyers? What's the difference a buyer is going to see in terms of how long it takes to make the foreclosure happen?
Well, foreclosures are generally speaking about the same transaction time as a normal sale, right? Maybe with an extra week or two geared in there, but generally speaking, it's about the same.
It's the short sales that are going to take the extraordinarily long amount of time that people hear the horror stories. It's been that my transaction's been going on for a whole year or something like that.
Right.
That's a short sale, not a foreclosure.
Okay, so now the difference between the two, because our viewer may be I have no idea what the difference between those two things are.
Yeah.
Can we quickly describe what the difference is?
Sure.
So foreclosures, also known as bank-owned properties or REOs, real estate-owned properties, are homes that were foreclosed upon, and now the bank holds them again, right?
Okay.
They essentially bought them back at the auction,
Okay.
Right.
and they hold them. And now it's a bank-owned property, and there's asset managers involved, so forth and so on. So the bank is the seller, and that is a good potential for buyers to find a good deal.
And I like to think of that as there's a guy at Wells Fargo with 100 folders on his desk, and those are all the Wells Fargo owned properties that he manages, and that's the guy that's going to make the decision. And so it doesn't take very much longer because he's in charge of making the decision on his files, and he can make that decision pretty quickly.
Okay, so basically it compares to a regular sale in that for a buyer, we can expect pretty much the same amount of time. You're just dealing with the bank as the owner now.
Exactly.
Bank is the owner.
It's
That's
condition where it really varies, okay? And it's condition of property specifically is what I'm talking about here.
Because sometimes people walk away from their foreclosure and they're mad. They tear out all the light fixtures, or they punch holes in the wall on their way out, or you're more likely to see a distressed property in the foreclosure inventory because people either take everything, all the appliances, everything they can get their hands on, the plumbing fixtures, or they cause damage on purpose because they're upset.
And so when they sell foreclosures, this is the same as a short sale. It's as is.
A lot, not
always.
Yeah, not always. So the big ticket items, okay, like appraisal required repairs,
Right.
a moisture termite required repairs.
Right.
A lot of the banks will play ball with that simply because it has to be done in order for the transaction to close.
And that can be bank to bank. And
okay.
it's not always banks, right? Sometimes it's government organizations.
Right.
Sometimes it's the Department of VA that owns a property. Sometimes it's HUD or Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or the pseudo-government organization, a real government organization.
Now HUD,
or a bank.
Now all HUD properties, as is, where is, you're not going to get anything, right? So it's very important to focus on that up front, okay, when you're first showing the property, and then especially on your home inspections. And so what I mean by that is if under your initial showing, if there's going to be issues that are going to pop up on on the appraiser,
right.
or let's say it's a plumbing leak or a roof leak, something like that,
Right.
that it will really deter a buyer from coming in and actually being able to live,
Right.
then that's going to be an issue, and you're most likely not going to be able to purchase that.
And that's where a good agent can kind of advise that buyer, hey, I think you're a VA buyer. The condition of the property needs to be pretty good in order for you to get the loan.
Yeah.
A bad agent might get them well into the transaction before they realize, hey, this doesn't meet the VA standards. And a good agent is going to say, unfortunately, this property is not going to meet your standard. This particular bank or organization is not going to do any repairs for you. You're just going to waste time and money trying to get this property.
And that's another element that we've kind of brushed across here with that makes a difference is depending on your funding source.
Right.
And the appraisal
that's
done,
a big part of it.
They're going to be a lot tougher with a VA than a FHA and then maybe a conventional.
VA has the most restrictive guidelines for appraisal standards, the condition of the property that it has to be in.
Right. So basically, for example, a VA will pop a home for not having a handrail above 3 risers, meaning above 3 steps.
Right.
They will require a handrail. So loan guidelines that will require you to have a handrail, needless to say, is not going to be acceptable with, no carpet or something like that.
And you would walk into a house and think, this house is in pretty good condition. I expected to walk into a foreclosure. I expected it to be
Not
all
perfect.
torn up.
Yeah.
And this house should be fine. But small things like a stair railing, or maybe one of the light fixtures is missing and there's a couple wires hanging down from the ceiling. Little things like that. I mean,
And the
$15 fixes
And
could
the buyer
get flagged.
and the buyer cannot pay for it themselves. Okay,
They can't
per
fix
VA
it,
loan guidelines. They cannot contribute to that to the install. Oh well, it's only $50 to get a handrail installed. Sorry.
Yeah,
kid.
what if I go over there and fix it myself? Would that be okay?
Can I just do this so we can go?
Right.
I've actually seen the height of a step not being code get flagged by
No,
a
it's
VA
true because
person.
it's a trip hazard. So
Yeah.
there has to be consistencies with risers. Risers
Yeah.
is the height of the the height of
It's
the
like
step.
7 or 8 inches
Yeah, and
or
it's
something. You got a 10-inch step.
Yeah.
Could get flagged.
Yeah, because it's when you have a nice even cadence going up the steps, it's a trip hazard. Because if
Yeah.
it's going to be an inch taller, then you can trip, and they're really big about safety. That's primarily where their their appraisal conditions come in, is safety concerns. But also too, let's talk about some of the bank-owned properties that are renovated, right? Because there are some instances where a bank will go in and completely renovate a home before they list, and so you're talking about a primo home. Sometimes it's only paint and carpet, something like that, but other times they go in and they do pretty extensive renovations.
Now,
Not always.
Would that be when a bank has so much equity in the property that it's worth doing that for them? They'll get more money out of the sale?
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with the equity, but the bank has done the analysis that, hey, if I spend $10,000 renovating, I'm going to get $30,000 higher sales price.
Or open up to 60% more pool of buyers who can use their VA loan. Right?
Exactly.
Right, okay.
Yeah, if you have a condition of a property that all the different loan types, they can't buy it, you have now narrowed down your pool of buyer to maybe 10% of the total market, and you will get less for that. So I agree. They either see a return on the dollars they're going to spend, or they know that opening it up to every type of buyer is just what's going to get them top dollar.
Yeah.
So they're trusting an agent typically to give them that advice. They hire an agent to do an analysis, and then they either follow the instructions or they don't. And that's when you see sometimes renovated foreclosures.
Yeah. So let's talk about another aspect of foreclosures, and that is the activity, right? I mean, on a good foreclosure that's priced well below normal sale open market, right?
Yeah.
Especially one that has had a renovation, whether it's a small renovation or a large renovation. Those things have multiple offers on them, almost guaranteed. Am I right?
Yeah. And I think this is a good place to talk about just the current environment. Foreclosures are the lowest that they've been in a long, long time, right? Foreclosure
actually
inventory.
good news.
Yeah, it is good news for the market,
For
but
the economy,
those
yeah.
buyers who still have the mindset that, hey, most of the market out there is foreclosures, the market is still pretty poor, and I'm going to go find
There's
a
very
deal
few.
on every corner.
Yeah.
The inventory, when you start to look at, hey, what are the foreclosures in Virginia Beach right now between 200 and 300,000? Maybe we run a search for just that.
I looked the other day, and a guy's criteria in 3 different high school zones, there was zero.
Zero. Yeah. Or maybe 1 or 2 or something like that. So if you're dead set on buying a foreclosure, it can be tough right now. Inventory is low for that.
Now, when you're thinking about buying a foreclosure, I mean, it's pretty much guaranteed you're going to need to do some work on this place, right? I mean, you're not going to buy a foreclosed property that's as nice as a regular sale.
Not always. I mean, that's what we're saying. I mean, in some cases, they can come in and it's perfectly move-in ready. You just bring your stuff. I mean, the property that I bought, that I personally live in now, was a bank-owned property, actually, and it had.
Mine was too.
Yeah, it had. Oh, really?
Mine was absolutely destroyed, though.
Oh, okay. mine was in the good case.
Okay,
It had a renovation. It was all new paint, carpet, all new interior doors, the whole nine. Like, they just did a complete, facelift on it.
So,
And
how
I
much
had to-
percentage of foreclosures?
Yeah, if I had to
would you
put a
say?
probability on it,
Yeah.
your move-in ready,
Yeah.
nothing needs to be done foreclosures is probably 10%
Yeah.
That's
of
what I
all the
was-
I was going
foreclosures.
to say
Right.
10 to 20, so that's
And
about there.
foreclosure inventory is really low, and
For
only
the most
10%
part,
of that.
The highest probability is you're going to need to be ready to do some work on this house.
A lot of banks the inventory that they get back in foreclosure status is pretty messed up. And they most of the time don't spend any money. They just put it on the market and let somebody else do all of that. And so, most of your inventory is going to be pretty run down. You got to think, people who get foreclosed on, they're having a tough time.
It's not it's not the cause. There's always what's called a hardship in the business that causes a foreclosure or a short sale or something.
And if they're not able to keep up with the house, they're not. I mean, think of how long they were just inching along, barely making the mortgage payments, but all this deferred maintenance is coming up, and they can't do it, and just years and years go by.
Yeah, but there is a solution. So we've talked about some of the negatives of the inability to get a foreclosure, right? And there are some useful tools out there to help buyers obtain that. And what that is a 203K loan, right? Of course, there's cash. Cash is king, right? It doesn't matter.
That's sort of a way around what we were talking about earlier, that the loan types are hard to buy a distressed property. A 203K solves that.
Okay, and let's take this slowly because, again, if somebody's brand new to this situation. So what we're talking about here is we're buying a foreclosed house for a reduced price, obviously. But there's a loan that the FHA offers called a 203K loan.
It's a construction loan.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. It's an FHA
fix this
loan.
Property up to the value it should be in great shape.
That gets you past the issues that the property has that aren't allowing it to meet the standards of the loan. They allow you to build in the repairs
and
into
renovations,
the loan.
Not just deferred maintenance, but we're talking about actual renovations, like updates, upgrades, not just repairs and maintenance, but updates, right?
I think you can do anything you want, but you have to spend at least $5,000. I believe it is.
That's correct.
So you have a minimum spend.
It's actually it has to be right over 5. Otherwise, it's known as a repair escrow.
Now,
so even buying a home that isn't in great shape, there is a way to fix it up. Then it all bundles into one loan. And
now, what I find though, a lot of people who want to buy that distressed property, they're looking to make some money using their elbow grease, right? Their hard labor, and so the one thing about a 203K is the money that goes to renovations does have to be paid to a licensed and insured contractor. So sometimes the buyer says, hey, I'm really going to make my money on fixing this property up by doing it all myself. And I need to get a loan to buy it. And it doesn't meet the loan criteria. And the 203K is making it so I can't do the work myself. So there's sometimes a little conundrum based on how the buyer wants to do it.
So essentially what it is, in a very short, brief explanation.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, in a nutshell of what a 203K loan is.
Is
it's a construction loan that enables you to roll the repairs and upgrades into the loan itself. And it has to be done very quickly, inside of 90 days upon closing of the home. And then payments, are made to the contractor of the buyer's choosing, in increments.
And that's a good point to explain the process, that the house closes before the repairs are done. And then 90 days to complete the repairs, and the appraiser that represents whatever type of loan you're using is going to come back out and review and make sure that you did the things that you said. There's no, I'm going to do granite counters and take that money and put it in your pocket.
Plywood countertops.
You can't do that. You do have to give a very detailed estimation of what the repairs you're going to do, and they are going to come back and make sure you did the things you said you were going to do. So
now, though, you have to use it, but this is in conjunction with just FHA loans, or no?
Yes, or 203K is
just in conjunction with FHA.
Yes,
I believe that there are some lenders with some renovation conventional products. I think that their FHA is the one you think of.
The one that we're speaking about. Now, I did get rumors of a VA 203K.
I think that other loan types are trying to get in. They realize they're losing market share, to FHA, and I think other players are trying to get in the game.
Great.
I think.
So the punchline is
good for the consumer.
So the punchline is that if this is something a buyer's interested in, it really takes investigation of that. I mean, qualifying for a 203K loan is a little bit tougher. You have to have a little bit more. Cash on hand, so to speak.
It's going to take you a little longer to close as well, because going through the underwriting on that loan takes a little longer.
It's just you have to make sure that you know this ahead of time, and you have somebody that's leading you all along the way.
Well, somebody, Chantel, Ray,
somebody like us, you know what I mean?
There you go.
We're talking about, we'll do a little light plug for ourselves.
There's nothing light about that. All right, so we pretty much covered foreclosures, and purchasing them. So let's talk about short sales. The difference between the two. We know what foreclosures are.
Sure.
Exactly what is a short sale?
A short sale is when the original borrower of a home, okay, owes more on a property than what it's actually worth. And they are selling it short of what market value is. And heavy negotiations with the original lender has to take place. So it's not only the lender, it's the servicer,
Right,
okay,
right.
and the investor. So the servicer would be, let's say, like Aquin, right, as a third-party servicer, and then the original investor would be like Fannie Mae.
Okay.
So there's guidelines that have to be met in order to come to an agreement.
And so I think the best way to say it is the current homeowner knows that they cannot sell the property and pay off their mortgage.
Okay.
So what they're doing is they're asking their lender, hey, let me try to get the best offer I can, and then I'm going to present that to you. And if it's good enough, will you take the hit? Take the hit of the difference.
Yeah.
Forgive the difference
Yeah.
on my behalf. So if I sell it for $200 and I owe $230, will you please take that $30,000 off of my back?
Basically,
and
eat
absolve-
the difference.
Yeah.
Eat
Right,
the difference.
right,
Right. So the difference of what a borrower owes and what it sells for is known as the deficiency. And what we do is we negotiate our short sales for non-pursuit of deficiency judgment.
And that's
Okay?
when we're working for the sellers.
Exactly.
That's when we're working for the sellers.
Yes.
And I think now, though, we're talking about how do we help our buyers get
Oh,
one?
right.
And what do they expect? What should they expect? Now, the thing about a short sale, a big misconception is, don't short sales take a short amount of time? Isn't that why
No.
they're called a short sale?
Absolutely not.
They're called a short sale because you're selling it short of what you owe.
Yeah.
And they take a long time.
Yes.
Well, so now-
Sometimes.
let me insert this too, just in case you are someone that might be in a situation you might have to go to a short sale to sell your house.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about it,
Yeah.
there do have to be hardships, right? There is a hardship
most
requirement.
of the time, generally speaking, a hardship needs to be incorporated, and a hardship is one of the big ones, like maybe a death in the family.
Does
Severe
divorce
illness.
qualify for hardship?
Yeah, absolutely. Divorce, because
Absolutely.
that's loss of income.
Yeah.
Like let's say a husband or wife isn't working because of because
Divorce
of
is a common reason we
Yeah.
end up in this short sale predicament.
Absolutely, yeah. So a hardship is always generally accompanied, and then so a normal time frame for a short sale is anywhere from 3 to 6 months. It can take shorter. I've had an approval in as little as 45 days. And again, that's for buyers or sellers, right?
Yeah.
And I just
then-
closed one that took over 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Well,
That's
listen, if you
so-
can live in the woods for a couple of years,
Yeah,
it's a
hey,
good option
the
for you
woods
right
are
here.
pretty comfy
Yeah.
this time of year.
Yeah.
It's a good season.
Yeah,
really.
right.
So now we're looking to look into a short sale purchase. So what can they expect in terms
So
of approaching that?
for somebody who tells me in the initial consultation, right? I'm going to sit down with you on a buyer's consultation and find out what are your needs and wants, right? And some of that has to do with when do you need to move, right? If you tell me my lease is, right now we're in April, mid-April. If you tell me your lease is up at the end of June, I'm going to tell you a short sale is not for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you have a short timeline that you have to be successful in acquiring a new home, and a short sale is just too big a gamble for that particular buyer.
Right.
If you say, hey, I own my home, I would love to get this property. I can wait as long as it takes, and whenever it does work out.
Or if they're in a month-to-month rental situation,
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay.
Absolutely perfect.
So
yeah.
when somebody looks at a listing, when your Chantel Ray agent shows you
Yes.
your selection of possibilities, and the price on these short sales seems to be so low, what is that about?
Sometimes they actually are. I mean, sometimes you can get about 20% below, a regular sales market value.
Now, is there a switch and bait, a bait and switch component? to
Can
this?
be. Can be.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. And so when a seller is listing their short sale on the market,
Right.
the process doesn't begin for them until they get an offer. So sometimes do they list it a little bit lower than what it should be to
Yeah.
get a quick offer, to
Yeah.
get the process going with the bank? They absolutely do. And the one thing that you should know is, as a buyer, when you put an offer in on a short sale, you're making a deal with the seller at that point. So you and the seller have now agreed at $200,000.
Meaning the original borrower.
Yeah.
Right.
The person who still lives in the home, the person who's still responsible for the home, they have not been foreclosed on yet, right? And they might not even be behind on their mortgage. They might just know they can't sell it for what it's worth. But now you guys have made an agreement at $200,000. The bank is then going to do an appraisal. The bank could come back and say, we want 250. And the buyer, if they haven't had it explained to them, is going to say, "Oh, hold on a minute. We have a deal at 200. What do you mean 250?"
Right, because ultimately it's the servicer and the original investor that I was talking about before that ultimately decides the sales price. It is not the seller and or borrower and or individual living in the home.
And so when you get into that short sale process, you need to know it could take a while. The price could change. The terms could change. Your original closing date could change. How much closing cost assistance that you're planning to get.
So a good example is that let's say you're only pre-qualified or you're only comfortable with spending the $200,000.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And that's what you go under contract with on a short sale. That's not a great position to be, because let's say the short sale comes, or the approval actually comes back at 205 or even 210, not necessarily 220.
Right.
Well, then you're not going to be able to come up to that position or not feel comfortable coming up to that position. So it's always good to have excessive margin in all aspects. He was talking about time, right? On comfort level of monthly allotment as opposed to purchase price, so forth and so on.
And when I'm sitting down with my buyers to talk about the pros and cons of entering into a particular short sale, I'm gonna sit down and say, okay, they have it listed at 200. Let's see if 200 is realistic. If I run the comparable sales and look at the neighborhood and the going rate for homes is 230, I'm gonna tell you the appraisal is very likely to come in around 230 based on the comparables I'm seeing. I think you have an 80% chance or better that the bank will counter you between 225 and 235. And you need to know that, because if you can't come or won't come up to that number, I think we're fighting a losing battle, and we're wasting time.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you said that too, because I recently had a short sale buyer, and they walked into the house with $30,000 of equity. And I told them from day one, I pulled the comps exactly like you said, and I said, look, guys, you need to understand something. I'm showing at least $25,000 of potential margin that we're going to have to make up, meaning higher than contract price. And I was shocked. It actually came back, the approval came back at value, meaning at the contract price. But the bank's appraisal, meaning the bank who is lending money to my buyer, their appraisal came in $25,000 to $30,000 higher. So that means that they have $25,000 to $30,000 of instant equity. So it is a gamble sometimes. It's just a matter of assessing percentage, and that's why he said it's about 80% chance that this could happen.
Yeah, I don't want to be overly pessimistic, because we all have those stories of somebody getting a fantastic deal because they're willing to suffer through the process, and it works out great for them. And we don't want to discourage you from trying. We just want to explain the pros and cons and make sure that at month 3, when you're still waiting, that you knew that was going to happen.
Exactly. It's all about expectation. And furthermore,
your rental agreement hasn't ended 2 weeks ago, and you're in the woods, as Jimmy.
And furthermore, and additionally, this house that my short sale buyers bought, it was fully, completely renovated with marble, all new kitchen, all new floors, all new bathroom,
and sometimes
everything.
And that was going to be my next question: is comparing to foreclosures. We were saying maybe 80% were crummy when you get them. What do you think the percentage of short sale homes that are trashed, you're going to have to do some stuff in is?
Well, the good thing about a short sale is, by the bank being willing to work with these homeowners, they've incentivized that homeowner to maintain the property, to maintain the equity, or at least minalize the losses, because they're saying, hey, we'll work with you if you keep the property up and all of that. So there's a little bit better condition expectation going into a short sale.
Usually speaking, yes, with short sales,
now,
it's considerably better.
To Josh's point, sometimes people are upside down on their mortgage because at some point in the past they pulled out $100,000 of equity to do the marble and the gold bath fixtures, and they didn't get all the money back, and now they want to sell it, and they're upside down because they over improved it. So you do see some short sales that are in immaculate condition, and you're going to get a home that's just over the top renovated for a discount because the borrower over improved it.
So it's important just to keep your eyes out and wait for that deal. It's been said the deals find you. You don't necessarily find the deal sometimes. So you have to do all of your legwork, all of your prep work, and be ready to jump on that good deal.
So, that's the thing about Chantel Ray, is that, proactive is the name of the game in this kind of thing.
That's
in real estate in general. But for these gems in the rough that you find in short sales and foreclosures, You really got to have agents that know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
And fortunately for us.
And here we are.
did. Just saying. So
Now, I think this is a
Side
good transition into
Seller
us
short
helping
sales.
our sellers do short sales. You know,
Yeah.
there might be some people out there right now that are saying, hey, I've been waiting for the market to come up enough for me to sell my house and break even, and it's just not happening. My work orders are coming up, and I
Right.
have to go to San Diego, and I don't want to rent out my house.
So
and I
now
need to
what?
know about a short sale and the pros and cons.
Do they have to be here living in the house for a short sale to continue?
They don't.
Okay.
They don't.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, so it's a process where we're going to sit down with the homeowner and say, look, short sale is one of your options here.
Right. I mean, there's all types of options. There's renting the home out.
There's
right?
5 options
Yeah, so it's-
for a negative equity situation.
Right.
In
So
my
it's,
opinion.
it's renting the home out, staying in the home. It is doing a voluntary foreclosure. Okay. Which
horrible
is,
option.
Yes.
Worst of the 5 options.
Absolutely right. But full disclosure,
Right.
we definitely don't advise a voluntary foreclosure.
Right.
That's
Okay.
that's not
You
good.
might as well try a short sale before you give the property back. I mean, the bank could work with you. It's foolish to let it foreclose as opposed to at least trying a short sale.
Absolutely.
So what did the? Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
you
yeah,
finished.
and then short sale, and then a non-voluntary short sale.
Okay. All right,
Well,
so
the
what-
other option for me, the 5th option for me, is just to bring a check. Sometimes
True.
people are in
Yeah, I
a
forgot
negative
about
equity situation and they owe 200 and the best offer they're going to get is 190 and they just bring a check for 10,000 to
Now,
closing. That's a possibility.
I will say for negative equity sellers, and this is just my opinion, it's all based upon the borrower's certain condition and situation. But I mean, if someone can go out and get a personal loan for $10,000, that would actually benefit them, in my
Yeah.
opinion, in most cases, rather than doing a short sale.
That's right. So we want to find alternative solutions to the short sale. If you can go and get an unsecured loan at your bank for the 10,000 and make it up, and you carry on, you leave the house, you're totally done with
Yeah,
it,
it's a
but you
wash.
have $10,000 of debt that you carry on at
Yeah.
5% interest. That's better for you
That's the
than the
least
short sale.
evasive
That's
option.
what I was going to ask you is real quickly because we need to wrap this up. But the difference in the ding of your credit between foreclosures.
Well,
and short sales.
that's the reason why you would
Yeah.
take
Right.
that other loan
Right.
with you.
But what is the difference?
Oh,
in the
okay.
So
ding?
the
Yeah.
difference is, okay, so short sale with certain loan types, okay, there is an ineligibility as far as to be able to purchase again after a short sale. The shortest amount of time is a year. It can be about 100 points or so on your
It's about
credit.
100 points.
About,
To-
I
for-
thought you were gonna say,
100.
it could be 100 years.
This is for a short sale.
Yeah,
It could be
So for
it's
short sale,
between 1 and 100 years before you'll be able to buy again.
Never again. Yeah. So
Short sale, 100-point hit to your credit, approximately.
Okay.
We can't tell you exactly, but that's our best approximation.
yeah, and that's with the loan not being in default. So
Right, okay.
sometimes, like full disclosure, a part of approval from the bank, okay, is that a borrower needs to be in default for about 90 days.
So it's a 100-point hit to your credit for the short sale,
Right.
and you have an additional hit to your credit for every missed payment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about now foreclosure. How does that affect your credit?
7-year hit. I mean, it stays
7
on your
years of
credit
not
for
being
7
able to
years.
buy again, and approximately 300 to 400-point hit to your credit.
Wow.
So again, if you're just fed up with your house and you say, "Look, I'm ready to throw in the towel. I'm
Yeah.
just going to give it back to the bank."
Yeah.
Try
Talk
short
to
sale.
us.
Yeah.
Try the short
Yeah.
sale.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a no-brainer. You have to try it first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all good information, man. I told you we had the right guys on this show, right? Listen, 717-1003 is the number to call. Chantel, Ray.
Yep.
Anytime. We've got agents available for you all day, every day. And we got this information. Everybody has this information. And we'd be glad to share it with you, meet with you, and discuss your situation, right, guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. Until next time, Jimmy Ray, John Mclaren, and Josh Chilton. Chantel Ray.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Good day.